Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Keeping It Sporty podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or by visiting our website at keepingitsporty.com. On today's episode, I am joined by a very special guest. This person is a master health, performance, and leadership coach. He is a mental health advocate through an event he founded called Spring Into Action, and he is the founder and director of Inside Out Health and Performance, a successful business located in the Leaside community. I am now pleased to welcome to the show Barry Samuel. Barry, how's it going?
Elias, a pleasure to be with you. Talking sporty, life, all kinds of good things. I'm inspired by what you're doing.
Oh, you know what? I really could say the same to you. I'm very inspired with all of your work through the community, and we're going to talk about it during this episode, so it should be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it.
Now, before we begin, why don't we talk a little bit about the Olympics? I mean, the Olympics have been going on. Canada has been doing pretty well so far, not too bad. I mean, obviously, nobody compares to the US because they have a lot of athletes and a lot of talent over there. Have you been keeping up with the Olympics so far? What are your thoughts on what you've seen?
Really been enjoying the Olympics. It's full value for entertainment for sure. And I'm sure, if you watch it from a media production standpoint or an event planning and staging lens. There's nothing that comes even close. And what they've done there is amazing. And as far as what the athletes are doing and the narratives that have taken hold, I mean, you know, uh, people put their lives on hold and invest everything they have into the legacy and having a moment. I mean, you look at somebody who finishes first or somebody in the 5,000 that trips up and hobbles their way well after the rest of the field has crossed the finish line. These people, well, on the one hand, heartbroken, can say they've done something that almost no one else, 99.9% of the population's ever done. So, it's just such a beautiful thing, and it's a real testament to the commitment these people make, their families, the work, and what I like to say, and I said this to at an event in my community not too long ago, is that uh, it's putting in the work when no one else is watching, and it's doing it on a daily basis. And can you imagine doing that for 4 years in a row before you actually get to step up and say, well, I qualified. Now I'm healthy enough to actually enter into my discipline and compete and maybe even make it to a final. All that is just, so many adjectives: courageous, heroic, inspirational for sure.
Definitely. And going back to the media side of things for a minute, I mean, watching the broadcast take place, all the planning that was put into it, and I mean, especially for someone like myself who's been behind the scenes of certain events, even just at where I go to school at TMU for their sport media program, but just to see how much preparation they put in is phenomenal to me. And I mean, the athletes, like you mentioned, they've been training for 4 years, 4+ years now, so they can compete in the Olympics. I mean, inspirational is really the word I could use for to describe them and everybody who's taking part in the Olympics for sure.
Yeah, at all levels, like you say, it's behind the scenes and it's on the stage. And Paris and La Seine, the river is Eiffel Tower. It's just been so enchanting, the whole thing. And also Notre Dame, to see how that's been kind of resurrected to some extent. I can't recall how much of repair from that devastating fire that happened, I guess, a few years ago. Um, Yeah, it's just so many storylines. It just, from a human perspective, to be to have a tentacle somewhere within these games is just such a thrill and a ride I can only imagine. Not to mention stress and anxiety.
Yes. Yeah, no, it definitely takes a toll on everyone's mental health, right? Which is also a key point which we're going to discuss. So I want to start with this. You're a tremendous leader and volunteer in the Leaside community, outside Leaside community as well. Where does your love for community stem from?
That's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. It's, at the heart of things, it's just fulfilling joy and seeing that reflected uh, in others, and the small life skill wins that happen. People hyper focus on your performance results, and this is kind of connecting back to my earlier comments on, you know, whether you get the gold medal or merely got to compete. It's such a thrill. Uh, you know, yeah, putting aside letdowns because everybody wants to be on top, but that's only one person or one team. So in terms of my love of community and where that originates, I think that it's touching one life. It's making it this fluid, embedding yourself in like this backdrop of play and health and physical activity in this case. So it's something that's always come naturally, and it's nice to be thanked, but really the reason I do it is just to see that spark come through in others.
Yes, I mean, helping out in the community is quite something special because these days I find most people are just in it for themselves. They really tend to just kind of like get away from that a little bit. And I feel like it's important that you give back to your community and to help out others who are either not as fortunate as enough as you, or maybe or more fortunate than you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and with directing Inside Out and founding Inside Out in terms of core values, it's one of the chief pillars for us is that we want everybody to win, and really develop the life skill of being virtuous and paying it forward. Um, because as much as you want to say that I'm focused on that exterior, I'm focused on that trophy and that medal, it's not quite as fulfilling unless you can take people along with you on that ride. And so, there again is that lovely idea of community, but having that pillar of um, you know, giving the support, um, some days, really embracing receiving that support. And you know, it's really, you can't do it any other way.
And I found it to be especially important post-COVID as well, when it was difficult to get in touch with your community more so in person, obviously, and that sense of belonging I found really just made everything a lot better for people, especially people because most people needed it after COVID, obviously, being in isolation for so long and then finally getting back in the community. I think it's really important for sure. So you
Yeah,
grew
we were
up,
all pretty
sorry,
starved.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I just add on to your comment that we were all pretty starved to get back together again.
Definitely, definitely. And that's why community is so important, as we discussed. You grew up playing baseball for North York and Leaside, which, as you know, is where now you know, is where I umpire. Um, and so you played and medaled with Team Canada at the Maccabi Games in Mexico 2019 and Israel 2022. What were those experiences like for yourself?
Well, actually, it's going to sound a bit rich, but it's kind of like what I imagine a junior Olympics to be like. It's an international competition. Um, you get to be with skilled people and close-knit families. And for those that, don't have their families, they're quickly embraced when on the road like that. And even by the host, host countries, host town, uh, you're also made to feel welcome. So uh, it's an unforgettable experience to be able to invest that time and do the work when nobody's watching, as I mentioned, which is what I was doing. Um, and some of my teammates, on Team Canada, on our way to medaling, we're appealing to some of my experience, and I was appealing to them to channel some of their youth. um, so it was really nice and complimentary that way. And But I should say in the second games, I actually severely sprained my ankle before a week on July 2nd, and the game started July 14th. So actually, the actual game's a little more than a week away, but it was a pretty precarious time for me. I sat out the first two games, um, got really taped up. Um, I distinctly remember we had a game, and I was coaching first base actually on my gimpy leg. And we were down by 8 runs against France and scored a walk-off, like a crazy 11-10 win in our very first game. So like these little moments, these little challenges and struggles definitely are poignant times to reflect on.
Wow, okay, so you got injured July 2nd, the games began July 14th, and then you went on to play afterwards, if I got that correct. Or were you just coaching, or you were helping out as a coach?
Well, I did both.
Oh, you did
So
both. Okay.
first two games, coach asked me to sit out.
Mhm.
And I didn't I didn't battle on that one at all. I was okay with receiving a little bit more treatment. And then I was in there, and by the end of it, I wasn't the only one that was a little bit scuffed up. So that's fine. So that just added another little layer to reflect on. So yeah,
Battling through adversity, exactly.
yeah.
That's quite the fun experience. I mean, obviously not getting injured, but having to be getting to be a part of the team and playing and eventually winning as well. I mean, that's just the cherry on top, right? With everything that occurred. Um, so moving on now, you're a mental health advocate, which is kind of the main point of discussion here. And you have run the annual Midtown Toronto Youth Mental Health Day event, Move for Youth Mental Health, for the past 18 years now, with the funds going to CAMH and Stella's Place. So why don't you give us more details about the event and how you began this event?
Yeah, in truth, it started as a give back to the diabetes community, the Spring into Action event. Um, and then some years later, it occurred to me that, well, two things sort of uh, converged. Just the idea that the diabetes community had a lot of subgroups in terms of their own mental health, which I was keen on supporting in any way that I could. Uh, and then I sort of realized that upon my own reflection in coming through times of therapy and counseling for myself, as well as studying within psychology as well, that I couldn't deny that, there were things that I was reconciling and trying to heal. And it was really becoming more and more like a burning belly sense that I needed to, talk about my lived experience to some extent, but and more importantly, create a platform, and some energy and some spirit around providing safe spaces and without judgment and holding space for others, and doing it in a lighthearted way, but with the meaningful message very much baked into that. So the Youth Mental Health Day event that we do in Midtown, going through the nature trails of Sunnybrook Park and just dancing and moving, and having, art be a part of it, whether it's live paintings or live performers. It makes for a really excellent day, and then anything we can do to kind of raise funds for the designated beneficiary places like CAMH and Stella's Place is very meaningful, obviously.
Yeah, it's so important these days to take care of one's mental health because obviously, we're talking, so when you began this event 18 years ago, maybe mental health wasn't seen and recognized as much by people back in those times versus how much we should be aware of it now and in the future, obviously going forward, because these days there's so many stresses in our everyday lives, and it's important to look at this. And even for your event that you have run for quite some time now, to just get outside, enjoy nature, doing, like you said, dancing and doing some art and just tapping into yourself, oneself, and grounding yourself, I feel like is also very important as well. So I think it's a terrific event that you've run, and obviously the funds are going to a terrific place, CAMH and Stella's Place as well. And I feel, yeah, it's so crucial to look after your mental health these days, and sometimes people lose sight of that fact.
That's so well appreciated and said. I think in how you captured some of that in terms of like stresses and anxiety. Like, I think we know now more so. I mean, one of my comments, through the pandemic, I mean, for all of us, it was an anxious time. And then if there was what, everybody was calling, what's the silver lining of the pandemic? Well, one of them was shining a light on mental health. And so we talk about, youth mental health and safe spaces, no judgment, and holding space for others, inclusivity, of course. Anxiety is pervasive. It's everybody has their own gremlins and battles with anxiety. And if we can impart self-acceptance and really basically uh, self-regulation is a term where just building the coping skill, to as you said, Elias, the grounding, so that when we get a little bit panicked, it's a way where we can kind of center ourselves again. So just like when we talk about mindfulness, we know that like our mind is going to wander in what we call a monkey brain, bouncing all over the place. The things that I didn't do, the things I could do, what I forget on my to-do list, or assignments and bills. We can always think of something that could trouble us a bit. It's like, okay, it's there. I see you, and just carry on, bring it back. So I think it starts with that awareness.
Exactly, right? It starts in your mind, right? And how are you going to deal with some of those negative thoughts or negative energy, and how are you going to release them and try and be the best version of yourself. And I find that can be difficult to do sometimes. However, if you have the right coping mechanisms, as you mentioned, it's it'll definitely help, right? To balance and to have a strong mental health and to be the best version of yourself, you know?
And if we bring it full circle, we started talking about the Olympics, and you think about high performance. Um, is there a more pressure packed stage than to have, I don't know, a billion people or hundreds of millions of people watching you, hanging on the edge of their seat to closely inspect every move you make. So like how are we going to manage that stress is through self-regulation. And this is one of the inherent life skills at Inside Out is starting from a foundation of having the self-awareness. And then how are we going to kind of go inward to really calm things down? Um, so, this is for, us everyday folk, and it extends through to the highest performers and achievers that we know, and that they will practice this self-regulation, breathing techniques, coping skills on a daily basis.
Hmm. Yeah, it applies to everyone. That, like you said, no matter if you're at one end of the scale or if you're at the other, it definitely mental health is very important, and you have to certainly take care of yourself and others, of course.
Yeah,
Now,
emotional, I don't want to get too scientific, but like emotional intelligence or EQ, just checking in with how you're feeling. And so now, I need to do a little bit more of that centering as you talked about, or I'm having a good day. I'm just gonna stay in the flow.
mhm, exactly, exactly. Now, you received the Lifetime Contribution Award last year, so a congratulations is in order for that, first of all.
Thank you very much.
Um, what was going through your mind when you won this award? Maybe take me through a little bit the process about how they reached out to you, and I mean, just your thoughts on winning the award.
Uh, well, I can say there's a ton of humility and a lot of shock. It was surreal. And I forgot that I used that word, and thank you for reminding me of that. And it was just kind of surreal. And just like I get a little choked up, even thinking about it now. Um, I think they couldn't tear me off the stage when I got up there because I just wanted to thank the community and so many people. Um, we had Angela James was there as one of the keynote speakers, and she's just an extraordinary example of being a pioneer in women's hockey. If you don't know who she is, you should look her up. Just the things that she did coming out of an impoverished background and overcoming so many obstacles. But yeah, I would just say, Elias, that the word is surreal.
Yes, I mean, obviously, just a terrific award to win, and it just shows that all your efforts, all you in the community, that they don't go unnoticed. Now, going back to Inside Out Studio a little bit, how did it begin, would you say?
Yeah, so Inside Out health, fitness, and performance really came about out of this fire that I had in terms of helping support other people. And my training, my academic background being in kinesiology, health psychology, and performance, it just kind of there was taking a risk and opening doors and putting out a sign. And at that point, people started to really come and see how they could improve their uh, their path, get some guidance in terms of lifestyle, sport, life skills, coaching. And so, been very honored to work with all kinds of people from the community, and help to guide them. So that's been the greatest privilege that I've had, to do the hard work quietly, Elias. And I know I'm overusing that now. But to see that sparkle again in people's eyes, and to help, to again make a difference for people, um, has been really rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, it's definitely important to make a difference in the community. I think Inside Out performance and fitness has really helped with that. And having a place to go and take care of your mental health, right? That's basically what we've been talking about. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, and then the philosophy behind the science and the philosophy behind the name Inside Out, as you might imagine, is empowering and blossoming, becoming the best version of yourself, uh, and really, channeling your life skills, and being your best in that way, in a very holistic way,
Mhm.
mind and body. So it's, passing on that meaningful message. We're working with schools, but also kind of, the other thing that's been wonderful is to work with so many great people, having such a great team. That's been sort of the biggest compliment in many ways, is to work with great people who have gone on to amazing things as well.
Okay, so Barry, if people want to reach you now and maybe they want to check out Inside Out, how can they do that?
Yeah, we're online. I would say two ways you can find us on social: Inside Out Studio, one word, and also through the website. That's insideoutstudio.ca. You can find our contact information there. By all means, send me a message. Be more than happy to try to answer any question. If you want to do a consultation, ask about, how you can take some next steps forward for yourself. Uh, be thrilled to do that with you.
Yes, please do reach out. So important. Again, to all the listeners out there, please make sure to take care of your own mental health. Make sure to check in on others, on family, on friends, or excuse me, with family, with friends, or just anyone in your community. So important that we look out for each other, especially now in this day and age with everything that's happening, in the world, in your own space, anywhere. So important to look after your mental health. Barry, I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to do this today, coming on and giving your wisdom to the Keeping It Sporty podcast, if I can say that. You're truly an inspiration.
Thank you very kindly, Elias. It's been a real pleasure to be on with you here, and watch you, crushing it, and achieving some great things. So keep up your passion for the games, for the sporting realm. Um, watch out for too many battles between North York and Leaside, of course. There's always going to be a throwdown showdown there for sure.
Hmm.
We won't make you declare your allegiance to one of them here today, I don't think, but you
Uh, I mean, I have been with North York a little bit longer, but I mean, I can't complain. I like both North York and Leaside. I mean, just two terrific communities. Well, excellent ball clubs as well. Obviously, as you know, I've gotten to umpire there plenty of times, both in North York and Leaside. Um, yeah, I can't pick one. They're both so amazing, you know?
Well, good for you. Enjoy what you're doing, and make sure you really see that the bleachers can hear your strike calls.
Maybe you'll hear them from down the road, maybe. Oh gosh. No, again, Barry, thanks so much. All the best to everyone and take care.
Go Canada, go.
Go Canada, go. Yes.